Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Mikkeller, of course the famous Danish gypsy brewers from Copenhagen, and today we have a quite interesting kind of collaboration beer. This one is a barley wine ale that is brewed with Swedish coffee. So this one is called Koppi, but spelled K-O-P-P-I. K-O in Swedish will give you a show sound, but Koppi are actually a coffee roasters or kind of specialist coffee cafe in Helsingborg in northern Skåne in Sweden. It's actually very close to where I live in Lund, and it's a very, very nice city, so if you find yourself there, do go and visit. But I'm sure I've been into this cafe and actually had hot chocolate, and I remember it being really quite good actually. So if you do find yourself in Helsingborg, go and check out Koppi Cafe. It should be a very nice little place for you to take a break. Very close to the castle in the centre of Helsingborg, if I remember correctly. But this one, it should be a really interesting and quite quirky barley wine for us to review. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Mikkeller reviews. There's about 15 or 20 of those now, so do check them out. I'll also put the link to Koppi Cafe's Facebook in the description too, and there's all the usual social media things, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd, so please follow me on there. Your support would be much appreciated, and to those of you in Sweden and Denmark, please do suggest some beers for me to review. I've done quite a few Danish and Swedish reviews now, but I will always try my best to get the ones that you guys want to see, because I know the standard of beer over there is pretty damn good, and I'll be heading back over there fairly soon. So, to tell you about Mikkeller, so these guys of course are the famous Danish gypsy brewers, and they were founded originally by Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, although they're now run exclusively by Bjergso, who actually used to be a physics and maths teacher. And again, these guys are very influenced by the American craft beer movement, and basically they started out as the home brewing experimentations of Christian and Mikkel, and they grew from there. Essentially they took their beers along to a kind of beer tasting group, and people really loved this, and this was what hooked the two guys on the idea of brewing. So it was pretty cool actually. But they don't have their own brewery, since they're a gypsy brewery of course, but rather they brew at a variety of host institutions, mainly in the US, Norway, Scotland, but most of their beer actually comes out of the De Proef Brouwerij in Locriste near Ghent in Belgium. So their sort of home base as such, if you like, is the Mikkeller bar in Copenhagen. They also have a collaboration bar with Toil, whose founders were actually former students of Mikkel's, and this is Mikkeller and Friends. And I believe there's bars in San Francisco, there's one out in Bangkok in Thailand, I think one in Tokyo these days as well. These guys are another brewery who are expanding quite a lot, mainly through bars, because they are a gypsy brewery, but they're very, very prolific. They've probably brewed now over about 800 different beers, maybe even getting close to 1,000 actually, but a very, very prolific brewery, and they produce some pretty awesome and pretty interesting stuff. So if you do get the chance and you've never tried Mikkeller beer before, pretty much just pick a style you like and I'm sure you will enjoy it. And they produce very quirky things like this with little kind of coffee roasteries like Koppi from Helsingborg, and they've done ones with Crooked Moon Tattoo as well, which I think was from Gothenburg. They do a whole host of different things, so pretty much just pick up a Mikkeller beer and try it, and there's a very good chance that you will enjoy it. So let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer now. That's enough about Mikkeller themselves, so I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. And of course, one thing Mikkeller are very well known for is their kind of distinctive labelling. There are different ones, but this kind of style of artwork you can see on here is the one that's very, very common. And this one is called, it's Gicha Thaini AA, and that's the type of coffee bean I think that they've put into this one, but it's called Koppi Barley Wine Ale. You can see, I'm not sure if that's meant to be mistletoe. I'm not sure if this was a Christmas beer that was released, but it looks very, very nice. Plain kind of dark green bottle cap on this one, and it looks very good. 10% ABV. It tells you on the back that the Gicha coffee is from Kenya, Nyeri in Kenya. So I think that, I'm not sure if that means black coffee or if that's actually a place. I think it's Gicha from Nyeri in Kenya. It's best before the 4th of December 2018, so I'm pretty sure this one was brewed for Christmas. There's a good bit of sediment visible in the bottom of the bottle here, so I'll pour it out without the sediment and then add that in a bit later. But let's get stuck into this beer. Oh, it's a little bit of trouble getting off, but you can see a nice smoky opening there. And we'll just be very careful with the pour here. I'll give it 2 separate tastings since there is quite a bit of sediment coming out of it. And just be careful with it, see where it is. Most of it's still on the bottom. We'll just take it like that. Most of it's gone into the glass anyway. We'll just say bugger it and go for it. Usually that's always a sign of a good craft beer. If you have a bit of sediment in it, you always want your craft beers to have a little bit of sediment. You can see it on the bottle there where it's kind of settled a little bit, but just without even paying too much attention to the aroma, it smells very nice and very malty. You can see how syrupy this beer is. Didn't come out with much of a head on it, so we'll see if we can kind of induce one by shaking it up a little bit. But yeah, as you can see, this beer is poured a really nice kind of browny chestnut colour actually. It's a kind of leathery brown colour too. There's a lot of sediment visible in that. You can see just by how opaque it is. I'm not sure if you can see the particles floating around, but there's a lot of sediment in this beer. And it's not even been in the fridge that long. This has just been cellared for a little while. So we'll sugar it up and have a look at it. You can see it's not transparent either. There's a good bit of carbonation visible in this, some big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head. But let's give this a smell and see how we get on. That's a really unusual aroma. It almost smells like vegetables. It's a very, very unusual aroma, this one. It actually smells like a compost bin. I've never quite smelt a beer like that. It really does smell like a sort of rotting vegetable kind of compost bin. It's not a very pleasant smelling beer, I have to admit. I'll be honest, it almost puts you off trying it actually, but with Mikkeller it's going to be a very, very good beer. But you can smell a little bit of earthy character out of this one. You can smell the coffee in it. But really, it does smell very vegetal and very herbal. The coffee is very prominent, as you would expect. There is a bit of brown sugar. It's kind of the caramel and treacle. And there's a little bit of wood and nut in there, but it really does smell like a kind of rotting vegetable. It's very unusual, this. It really does almost put you off wanting to try this one, but it defeats the whole purpose of the video if I do that now. So we'll give this guy a taste. This is the Koppi, which is a barley wine ale with coffee beans from Koppi in Helsingborg in Sweden, and it's brewed by Mikkeller from Copenhagen in Denmark. Slange, we'll see how we get on. Well, thankfully, it tastes a lot better than it smells, and that's a big relief, because this would have been the first bad beer I'd ever tried from Mikkeller, and really the aroma on this one is not very nice. I'll be straight up about that. It is not nice at all, but the taste is actually pretty good. So it's the first time I'll tell you on the channel, don't bother smelling this beer, just drink it. But this is a really quite unusual barley wine. It doesn't even fit into the category. Usually you have your English barley wines, of course, and you have the American ones. The American ones are a lot fruitier, the caramel flavours are a lot sweeter as well, but the English ones are a bit more dark and a bit earthier, and you just get a little bit of the kind of candied red fruits. This one as a barley wine is completely different to that. The coffee is very, very prominent with this one. And I have to admit, when I was seeing they were using coffee beans in this, I'm like, why would you put coffee in a barley wine? It seems a bit more sensible to make like a brown ale or an imperial brown or even a stout, you know, a coffee stout. But they've chosen to do it with a barley wine, and it's quite unusual. It's definitely, this beer is definitely an acquired taste, so just be prepared for that. This is one that you probably, if you get a bottle of this, you want to taste it with your friends. It's probably not one that you can drink all yourself, so try this beer with your friends because it is quite quirky and very unusual. I've certainly never tasted anything like this, and this is near review number 650 now, so it's very, very unusual, this one. But despite the really kind of almost unpleasant aroma, I would say, that rotting vegetable aroma, it actually does taste pretty nice. The coffee is remarkably sweet in this one, and it's a very smooth, quite sweet coffee. There's a little bit of earthiness to it that makes the coffee come across as very smooth. It's not one of these really dark, roasted bitter characters. It actually fits in quite well. There's a nice bready aspect to this beer, and that blankets the middle of your tongue. The coffee just lingers there, and like I said, very, very smooth, but there's a bit of caramel sweetness in there. It is quite toasted. You're not getting so much in the way of a sweet character from it, but it's got a bit of woody and nutty flavour in here. You can definitely pick up that infusion, but the most prominent component on the malt base is definitely that coffee, and it just lingers there. As you go around the edges of the tongue where you'll normally find the hoppy characters, just go in a little bit, and you've got a kind of almost horseshoe shaped thing on your tongue where the coffee is just lingering, and it is quite nice actually. And it's really weird for me to try a beer that just smells so bad but actually tastes really quite nice, to be honest. But yeah, with the hoppy side of the beer, in the back corners of your palate, you're getting a sort of earthy character just in the very back corners of the palate. There's a little bit of dryness for that. As you come further forward, the earthiness just smooths out, and that actually goes very well with the with these kind of lingering, kind of smooth coffee flavours that you have in this beer. There's a herbal sort of vegetal flavour in this too, but it's as I said, the aroma on this beer is pretty damn bad, to be honest with you. It really is quite off-putting, but the herbal character that's in the beer that obviously gives it that aroma from the hops, it's actually pretty nice, and it builds a good bridge between the malty flavours in the beer and the more kind of smooth hoppy characteristics. This is a very, very unusual one. There's not even any kind of fruity esters coming out of this beer at all. Well, that said, they are there. There is a bit of a dried fruit, maybe like raisins coming out of this one, dried raisins, maybe a little bit of plum, and you feel that just behind the front curve of your tongue. But you have to pay attention to the front of your palate to really pick that up. If you just drink the beer and sort of look at the kind of grand scheme of things, it's really the smooth coffee, a little bit of the roasted caramel and things like that, very roasted caramel in fact, and the earthy and herbal hops. Those are the main components of this beer, and like I said, it smells horrible, but it actually tastes pretty good, which is very unusual. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, this one, it's actually fairly light in the body. It's mid-bodied. Carbonation is pretty smooth. There's a bit of an oily mouthfeel to it. It actually feels as if it has a bit more body to it, and maybe that's the sediment that's actually in it. But the coffee and the sort of herbal flavours make it feel a little bit heavier than it is. There's no way that you would guess this is 10% alcohol. You don't get very much in the way of alcohol warmth from it at all. Like I said, the malt base is actually quite smooth. There is a bit of the dryness from the coffee, and that starts to come out as you move into the aftertaste. Really, there's a tiny little bit of sweetness, but not very much. It's quite roasted from the caramel and smooth from the coffee. There's a bit of juicy fruit behind the front of the tongue, and the hoppy character has a bit of dryness at the back, but smooth overall otherwise. But like I say, this is a really quite quirky beer from Mikkeller, and the idea of adding coffee, Kenyan coffee, to a barley wine is really quite unusual. That this one doesn't fit into either the English barley wine style or the American style. This is something kind of completely random and completely different. So I'd recommend this beer to folk. You know, this is one you want to try for the sake of trying. It's not a beer. This is a beer that you would drink for the kind of abnormality of it. It's a very unusual and very quirky beer. This is one that I would recommend you try with friends. Take a few, share a bottle between maybe 5 of you or something like that, and just have a taste of it, because it is very unusual, and it's actually quite a hard one to just sit down and drink. I'm going to go away and share this with my dad and see what he thinks of it as well. But it's, if you like sort of coffee flavours and smooth coffee at that, I can see you enjoying this one. Maybe you can session it, but certainly for me, when it comes to barley wines, I do like the American style a bit more than the English one. This one does, in fairness, lean a bit more towards the English style, but at the same time, it is really quite quirky and different just because of that coffee in it. But overall, it's another interesting beer, and as a beer reviewer, it's really cool to sit down with beers like this that are very unusual, and it makes you think about them a little bit more. So it's been quite a cool one to review. It's been sitting in my box for about a year and a half, so it's finally cool to pop it open and actually have a go at it. So yeah, I mean, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Very unusual that it smells so bad, but it actually tastes pretty good. It's not one that you can sit down and session, like I said. It's more of a beer that you drink for the kind of quirkiness and unusual factor, but another really interesting brew from Mikkeller, and that's exactly what you would come to expect from them when you've tried your beer. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below if you do happen to have tried it before. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. If you want to see more Mikkeller reviews, go into the channel and just search Mikkeller. There's quite a few of them there, but go and check out the social media things, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. As always, I thank you for your support. It is much appreciated. Go and try some Mikkeller beers, and do recommend some more for me to try. There's always some good beers out there. I just need to hear about them, and I will do my best to try them. So thank you again for watching, and I will catch you soon, and don't hesitate to get in touch. Slangy just now, and I'll catch you soon with the next beer review. Cheers.